All right. Today we have the fortunate pleasure of being with Shawnee once again. If you have not seen the last video, it is amazing. So I will make sure I put a link below so you can check that out. So today we are going to talk about thoughts and how they can actually hold us back and they can empower us once we become the master of our mind. And Shawnee is a mindset coach. She has mental toughness. She handles all of those different things that have to do with the mind and really empowering yourself to be the master of your mind. So let's get started. How are you today, Shawnee?
Awesome. And I can't wait to talk about thoughts. I don't think that we talk about thoughts nearly enough. So this is going to be a good one.
Yeah. So, all right. So, what's kind of do you come up against across the board? Because you deal with parents and you deal with young adults of all different age brackets. So, what do you find is one of the biggest things that comes to getting in their way?
The biggest thing that gets in their way is that me,
Yeah.
I don't pay attention often enough to our thoughts. I was reading this article and it said that you have up to 60,000 thoughts a day. 80% are negative, and 95% are repetitive. Even if those numbers are off by 20,000,
Yeah.
it was like, oh my gosh, that
Mm-hmm.
is a lot going on in our head.
Yeah.
And if we don't know this, our thoughts end up bossing us around.
Or how about the fact that we think we are our thoughts,
Well, that's a good one too, isn't it? That we think
right?
we are our thoughts. Right.
My thought is I'm not enough. Or we've taken on the energy and thoughts of other people because we don't always realize that we're energetic beings and that we're collecting people's thoughts, emotions, and feelings. And our thoughts now we think, oh, well, it's just what I think or I feel. But really, no, you're not your thoughts.
Well, thoughts are just thoughts, and they can be very important guides for us, but they can also guide us down a lot of dead ends if we don't pay attention. Then I come back to the concept of the boss. You're having thoughts whether you want to or not. Research says up to 60,000. What if we started to become the boss of our thoughts instead
Master
of
your
our
mindset.
thoughts? Yes, instead of our thoughts running around like unsupervised children, we become the boss. And I heard you say, we have the negative thoughts of I'm not enough and why am I doing this? Why should I bother? Maybe I'm just fake. Maybe I'm just nobody's going to like me. What if we changed that and we said, well, what would the boss of our thoughts say? Because I can take almost any thought that someone is having and flip it
Right.
with the question to them would be this: what else could be true?
Right.
See,
And that
we
there's
never go
not
there.
right. And you talked about this before. We talked about this before, is that there's not we've all been taught there everything's polarity. But the reality is, yes, there's two sides, but there's also 50 other sides to something. It's not just those two. And this and that can be true.
Totally, exactly. And so, Steph, I think what is cool about this for people is, well, I'll just tell you what I teach.
Yeah.
I tell my clients, you can have any thought you want anytime. So, in other words, we're not judging. This is good. This is bad. I don't want this one. I want all these. It's like, just have them. Go ahead, because there's thoughts, right? You're going to think stuff.
Yeah.
Go ahead and have any thought you want. But I think what mental toughness is like, oh, noticing, oh, there's that thought. Is that thought serving me? Is it taking me toward my greatest self, or is it taking me away from my greatest self? What can I do with that thought? Can I shift it? Can I flip it? We don't do that. These thoughts come in and we just allow them. We allow any thought, anytime, and then the thoughts boss us around. And they typically will often, if it's true what research says, 80% are negative. Think about where all those negative thoughts are taking us.
Right. The other thing too is you have to think about how many of those thoughts that just pass by like clouds that you don't even interact with. And then there's the other ones that like hit the brick wall. And that's the thought that you're choosing to engage with. That's the thought you're choosing to have a deeper conversation with. That's the thought that you're getting totally geared up, or you're getting totally frustrated, or you're stirring all these emotions. But you had 60,000 thoughts today, and how many of them just passed through like clouds that you never chose to interact with? And then there's the ones that go thud. And now you choose to interact with those. And how long do you choose to interact with those? And then sometimes we're arguing with ourselves, or we're fighting with ourselves because we're righting and wronging. Like you said, this thought, I shouldn't be thinking this way. Well, I shouldn't be feeling this way, or I shouldn't be blah, blah, blah. And we're starting to judge ourselves. And now that thought that could have kept going, that we could have chose not to interact with, or interacted with it differently, now becomes an argument we're having in our own mind with ourselves about, most likely, usually things aren't even real. We're fighting with something that's in the future, something that's in the past that we can't change. We're not living in the present moment of this moment with that thought.
And you use the word judgment. And I think it's so important to talk about that word, because if 80% of our thoughts are negative, that means we're judging all the time. Well, 80% of the time. What if we could shift judgment? Okay, I'm always in the shift and flip, and what else could be true? I think one of the opposites of judgment is curiosity. Do you know that it's really hard to be curious and judgmental at the same time? What if we could look at our thoughts and go, that's interesting. Can you hear the curiosity in there? Like there's an openness. That's interesting.
Right.
And then this is often what I do for myself. I'm like, that's interesting. What is this thought showing me? What am I supposed to be like? I just go curious. I'm like, what's this showing me about me? Right. Which path is this taking me down? Again, what is mindfulness, mindset, mental toughness? If we don't pay attention, we don't have a chance. But if we start paying attention, oh, that made me think of this, and I better say it before I forget. How do we pay attention to our thoughts so that we can be the boss of them? What if you just started putting sticky notes where you could see them, and it had this acronym, WAIT, WAIT, and it actually means that. Wait, pause, take a breath, take a moment.
Yeah.
And then it stands for this. What am I thinking? Wouldn't that be awesome? Like, what if we just did that 5 times a day, 3 times a day, and went, wait, what am I thinking? And then we got curious about our thoughts. And then we said, and can I be the boss of this thought and shift it so it starts working for me rather than against me?
Yeah. I created, her name is Sally, and Sally is a character that I created in my mind. And Sally has pigtails, and she is that person or voice within that's like lovingly like, did you hear what you just said? Like, like she's awareness, like if you see that, like the characters in like some of the Pixar movies, it's like that's the emotions. It's like she's curiosity. I mean, she's awareness. And she says to me, like, "Oh, did you see what you just did? Or did you see what you just said?" And like all of a sudden, when she chimes in because I'm doing my own thing, all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, thank you, Sally. Thank you. And you know, and just having that like loving heart be like, this is your responsibility, is make me and help me be aware of my thoughts so they don't go unnoticed. And for me, being a super visual person with my dyslexia, I can see her, I can hear her, I can visualize it. Like it has all the tangible things that I am looking for. And it really has helped me gain so much more awareness. Because like you said, when you have thoughts moving rapid speed, awareness is everything. And the thing is that, you know, when when we're trying to build a business or we're trying to get into the next chapter of our life or just living in general, we have so much of society and conditioning that is just waiting on us like heavy, heavy blankets. You know, and it's like by having awareness, by doing mindset, to doing all this stuff, we're freeing ourselves to be more of ourselves so we can be and do what we're really here to do, whatever that is. But our thoughts get in the way because the ego isn't a bad thing. But like you said, if you're the ego's, like instead of you being the master, your ego is the master and you're playing its game. Versus when you've done enough mindset work, we have the awareness to be like, I don't play that anymore. I'm going to tell you how this goes, and that's the way this is going to go. And you use your thoughts as a computer to go through and filter information and have you go about it that way.
You know, you talked about that loving Sally with the pigtails. And I don't have one of those exactly, but I'm getting better at noticing, like listening to what I'm saying to myself.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have to have the opposite of the loving Sally. Like sometimes my brain, I did this the other day. I was just, my thoughts were going everywhere. And finally I just said this, shut the fuck up.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I had to,
Yeah.
I'm like, enough already.
Yeah.
Shut up. And I'm saying that to myself, shut up. Because sometimes my thoughts just take over so much that the loving side of me can't help them. So
Right.
I have to be very assertive at times. Other times I don't. But I think what we're both saying is 60,000 thoughts are coming at us, maybe more, maybe less. If we don't do something with them, what you said, we're going to go back to our judgment. We're going to be worried about what society's saying. All of these other things come in, and then we start going, I think about that fork in the road, and I get to choose toward my greatest self, away from my greatest self. And our thoughts are trying to pull us away, because think about how much of our thinking is negative or safe. So we got to do something with that.
And it's accepted in society. That's the other part.
True.
That's one of the big parts of this, is I feel as though, in my opinion, that part of what our generation, the 40 plus people, one of the things that we can really help do is share our knowledge, share our insight, share our wisdom. Because what comes from that is we change the narrative that it's not necessarily about negative is should be socially accepted the way that it is, because it's dragging us all down. It's not freeing us, it's dragging us all down. But the more that we speak up and we share our wisdom and we share our intel and we share our life experiences as all beautiful tapestry of who we are, then we're able to start to bring more light in and more light in and have more conversations and be more authentic and be more of ourselves and feel comfortable with that. And that it's okay to be happy. It's okay to be outgoing. It's okay to be a shining light of joy and happiness and all these things. It's like, but at the same time, it's like society says it's you want to be part of the miserable club. You want to be part of the news and the drama and everybody coming at you and coming at you for coming at you and wants a piece of you and wants a piece of you. And all of that, what that does to your mind and your body, it's like you don't, it makes it that much harder to be your authentic, joyful, happy self because they're trying to dominate your thoughts, dominate all of these things, you know. And one of the big things like I've talked about a lot is clean water in, clean water out. I don't watch the news. I don't do a ton of social media. I do it for work and for very specific things, and that's it. And or I watch YouTube to educate myself. But I'm really, really super mindful of what I allow even in my field to even get 1 ounce of that because I protect it so heavily. And do you find that you do that as well?
What I like about what you're saying is that the negative thinking that so many of us have is kind of not our fault, right? I mean, we've been trained this way. I'll give you an example. One of the first questions that I'll ask my clients would be, on a scale of 1 to 10, how hard are you on yourself? And they're like a 9. And you know what I say to them? Stop taking pride in that. Stop wearing that as a badge of honor, because I can hear it in them. Yeah, like a 9. I'm like, why are we proud? Why are we proud of the fact, yeah, I'm really hard on myself? Why the F do we need to be hard on ourselves?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone else is going to do it for us.
Right. The
What
other
if,
thing too,
oh,
really quick into that is that I wonder if some of that comes from, and I know that you work with all different ages, but I think I sometimes wonder if it comes from like, you know, the boomer generation. They had so much pride in being workaholics. They had so
oh,
much
yes.
pride in
Yep.
that they were tough. They had so
Right.
much pride in all of these, like, I get my watch and I died the next day, you know? But it's like, so I wonder if sometimes if you get groomed from certain generations or certain groups of people or who you're influenced, and, you know, where do we hear our parents in our voices, in our heads, in our thoughts, you know, versus back to like what you're talking about. Sorry, I just wanted to interject that for a second.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it, where we get these narratives from. But I think of how we talk to ourselves is so, well, I don't like it. Number one, I don't like how I was trained to do it. So I'm trying to unlearn. And unlearning is way harder than learning. What if we asked ourselves this?
Yep.
So here we are, we're going on with all these things in our mind about whatever, and usually it's about ourselves. What if we asked ourselves this? What would your best friend say to you? How would your best friend talk to you about this?
Right.
Why don't we do a better job of being our own best friend? Because the way we talk to ourselves, we would not talk to our best friend the way that we talk to ourselves. Why do we do that? Why do we beat ourselves up, throw ourselves under the bus, dim our light? Because that is not what our best friend would do. I think we need to do a better job of being nicer, kinder to ourselves.
I think honestly, you know what my truthful answer to that is? because so many of us have low self-esteem,
Yes.
low self-worth, low confidence, low belief systems. And honestly, deep down, if we really admit it, we don't feel we're worthy of it.
Yep.
We don't feel that we are worthy to be treated at that level. And so instead, we neglect ourselves, we punish ourselves, we self-reject ourselves. We are the biggest abusers to ourselves that are out there. And we repress ourselves. We are our own repression system. Because to shine our light, to empower ourselves, to shine our light, to free ourselves from that, to be ourselves, and to really be that bold light and love ourselves in a way we were also taught was selfish. So now we don't want to be, now we've got word linking together. So if I'm selfish, then this means this. Okay. But I think what comes into play is if we can remove the power of the word selfish and give it a new meaning, then we have the ability to set ourselves free, love ourselves. But then our greatest selves come out. But then there's a new fear that shows up with that. Because now we go into my greatest self now shows up. What if I fail? But how can you fail if you're always just being authentically yourself? Failure doesn't exist because there's no ceiling, there's no right, there's no wrong. You just are, and that's enough because you were born enough.
Well, fear of failure, I mean, that's a real thing
Yeah.
for everyone.
Right.
I would venture to say this. I don't actually believe it's failure that we fear. It's our feelings, right? Failure is a thing, but we're afraid of the feelings that come when we fail. And much of the fear of the feelings comes from the fear of what other people might think when we fail.
But
we fear judgment.
Yeah. But the thing is then we are empowering these other people that their thoughts are more valuable and greater than our own. We are outsourcing our thought process and our value to other people. Instead of it coming from internal, it's out external. And that's why we're never happy or satisfied or whatever, because it's external validation instead of internal validation, instead of working on our own thoughts, working on our own patterns, changing and becoming the master of our own mind. That's when it all starts to change. But again, at the same time, about the whole part about failure, it's like if we came from another country and the word was goobly glah and none of us knew what it meant, we'd never be worried about it. It wouldn't be like, okay, whatever, I don't know what it means, like, okay. But at the same time, once again, we give words so much power.
Yep.
Instead, and expectations, and we give expectations so much power that it's like we're never in the present moment. We're never just being in flow. We have an expectation. We have words like that have so much weight to them, like failure, instead of seeing them as lessons, experiences, and diffusing the magnitude of the word. So we can empower ourselves in other ways. Would be so radically changing.
And I think for us to be able to have the courage to fail, because it's way safer to not put yourself out there so you don't have to fail. I think we measure the wrong thing. I think we have the wrong target. Failure, in the way society measures it, did you win or did you lose? Were you first or were you last? Did you get the promotion? Did you not get the promotion? It's based on an outcome. But outcomes are out of our control. Because if they were in our control, we could manipulate everything to work in our favor. Well, it doesn't, that's not how it goes. I really believe a lot of the people that fear failure is because they're measuring the wrong thing.
Right.
They're measuring goals and outcomes instead of process and values.
And it's about who you become in the process.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it. It's who you evolve, what you grow, what skills, what people you meet. It's about the journey. It's so much about the journey. And the other part of that too is, again, it's like, in that journey is who we just evolve and evolve and evolve. But back to the thought part of that, it's like winning, you're giving a thought and creating an emotion to it that's positive, and you're giving a thought and a meaning to losing, or a thought and an emotion to it, and again, it's like, but if you came in second and you could rewire your brain to be like, I did my best, that was awesome, I don't care about the rest of it, I achieved my own greatness today, I achieved my own personal greatness today, I don't need an exterior system to validate my interior worth.
Let me give you an example. I'm going to use sport.
Yeah.
Because this happened to me yesterday. Again, so I'm pickleball. I love pickleball and I'm pretty good. But I'm not awesome. And I was playing yesterday with a group that I walked in the court and I'm like, oh, damn. I better bring my freaking A game. Like, I was like, I knew I had my hands full. And it was so interesting listening to my thinking. And I was aware and I was doing my best to be the boss. And here's something I was really proud of yesterday. I made a lot of errors. And so often I heard myself say this when I made an error. That's okay. That was the right decision. See how I went into process? Like I made a man, I almost had a great point, but it went into the net and we lost the point. And I'm like, that was the right shot, because I was focusing on measuring myself on the process rather than the result or the outcome. And I tell you, when you start looking at the process, and here's what I was trying to do. I'm like, I want to make brave mistakes today, not safe ones. I know I'm going to make mistakes. I want to make brave ones. And that was how I decided to measure myself. Did I have the courage to make brave mistakes today? And I'm like, yeah, I did. And that's a way different thought process than I sucked. I hit so many balls into the net. No one's ever going to want to play with me again. Boss of your thoughts.
Right. Yeah. Right. And I think that's why the biggest things that kind of comes into play is that one of the things that I want to touch on for a second here is that, especially for women that watch this channel, they've had maybe a successful career, or they've had a career in doing something else, or they've been an outstanding mom or whatever, and they're into their next chapter. And they want to now serve, and they want to help people, and they want to empower themselves to be more authentic, to do this. But what happens is sometimes, even at our age, when we're 40 and above, we can go back to imposter syndrome. We can go back to like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know what to do. And it stops us from sharing our wisdom and knowledge with other people. So like, let's just touch on this for a second here about like how can we help them to maybe shift some of that mindset when they come up against, okay, I've never done a YouTube channel before. I've never done a book before. I've never done this before. And now I have imposter syndrome that's showing up. And I'm into the hows, the dreaded hows, the drag us undercurrent. Like, what mindset stuff can we give them that could be really powerful to help them move forward?
Well, it begins with wait. What am I thinking? Oh, I'm in imposter syndrome again. Oh yeah, good to know. Remember, all of this negative thinking, it's simply designed to keep us safe
Right.
and small, because small is
Right.
safe. Small is safe.
Right.
Dim light, safe. All of that safe. And it's safe, but it feels crappy.
But
what
is
if we
it really safe? But is it really? I mean, I think in the sense, like, and I ask that because I've lived in the small world my whole entire life. But it's like, is the safety really just an illusion?
Well, the reason
It's
that I say yes is because if we truly ask ourselves deep down and we are very honest, how does safe feel? Does safe feel strong or weak? Empowering or disempowering? It feels weak and disempowering, but it's also easier and it's known. So safe, I think, feels bad. Like, we kind of know when we're being safe, we kind of know we're lying to ourselves. Like, deep down in here, we can lie to ourselves. So I'm agreeing with you. The word safe, they're all safety first. I hate safe. Like, I wish we had a different word,
right.
because safe almost means like, yeah, we should be safe. It almost feels like we should be rewarded for being
Right.
safe. And
It's
I'm like,
really more. It's
no.
more like It's like it's unhealthy comfortability.
Yeah. Yes.
Right.
It's
I mean,
small.
it's yeah. I mean, it's somehow is that. I mean, and again, it really could have kept you safe when you were 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,
Right.
12, up to 13 years old.
Right.
But now you aren't that person, that little person that needed safety,
Yep.
because now you're an adult. But yet we've dragged sometimes those blankies with us through the years because we just have, and now it's time to disassemble them. But at the same time, it's just kind of like, you made a good point that I want to call out. So I think if you're struggling with imposter syndrome or certain things, say them out loud, and say them in many different voice tones. Like, say, like, say them in a squeaky voice, say them in a high pitched voice, say them in a really low voice. Because I think what you're calling out is so important, is when we can hear what we're saying in different voice tones,
Yeah.
we can sometimes hear how silly they could sound, how like real, like seriously, like we take the power out of them. When we change the voice tone out of something, we change the power of it. We change the perspective of it. We change the angle of it. And I think no matter what it is that we're feeling, if we say it out loud and we say it in different voice tones, then all of a sudden we can hear it and see it from so many different angles too.
I agree, because now it increases our awareness.
Right.
And the other thing that might be interesting to notice is, this is what I notice for me when I'm not being the boss and have all, these unsupervised children running around in my head. You know what I notice is my thoughts are actually creating problems. Like imposter syndrome. Where did that come from? I
Right.
created that, my own self. Oh, I'm
Right.
not qualified enough. I'm not smart enough. I don't have enough, whatever. So we're creating problems for ourselves. And if we don't pay attention to that, the problems that we create stops us from taking action. So again, I'm coming back to noticing, what am I thinking? Saying it out loud, as you just mentioned.
Mhm.
And then what if we could say this? Oh, I see this problem that I'm creating. Oh, that also means I'll bet I can come up with a solution. Because the truth is, every damn problem that we are having,
Right.
someone has solved that problem.
Right.
Every problem has a solution.
Mm.
So when we create problems, instead of staying in the problem, creating another problem on top of the problem, we go, oh, there's me creating
Right.
my problem again. Oh,
And
solve it.
right. And the other thing too is that we are here. We as a human race are born to be builders and creators. Everything that is here at some level, like other than what God, universe, whatever created, like we build buildings, we build infrastructures, we build systems, we build homes, we create, we innovate, we are here. So it's only human nature at some level to create all of this negative talk or what have you, because our minds are looking for something to build and create. But if they're unsupervised, like you said, they're going to create chaos because there's no master. There's nobody running the show. But when you speak to people that have done a ton of mindset work, we'll use some of the greats like Tony Robbins or, Mel Robbins, or some of the different ones that are out there that are really well known, Lisa Nichols, like some of the different ones, Joe Dispenza. They are the master of their mindset. They stay the master of the mindset. They control the room of their thoughts. They create things, like you said, that empower them, not disempower them. And I think that's a big part of this, is why I work so hard on mindset, and I know you do too, is because it is the massive foundation for your personal and life success.
And if we don't apply anything that we're talking, if we don't apply this, we cannot change our self-esteem or our
Right.
self-worth.
Yep.
And what I mean by that is if we have low self-esteem and self-worth, and there's all these thoughts, and the thoughts create problems, and we don't do anything to solve the problems, how in the world are we supposed to increase our self-esteem or our self-worth? Because to love and believe, we have to have some proof and evidence of our worthiness.
Right.
If we
Action.
sit on the couch all day long watching Netflix and eating chips,
Right.
because all of these problems are going on in my head and I'm not doing anything about it, and then I say, you know what, you got to smarten up and have better self-esteem. That isn't how it works. So
Right.
I'm really encouraging all of the listeners and myself
to
pay attention, be the boss, notice that we create problems, and then we shift and be like, how would my greatest self solve that? What would my greatest self do with that? If I had some courage, how would I handle that?
Yeah.
And when we start taking those steps, we take action. That's how we change self-esteem, because we got proof and evidence of like, holy shit, look at, I just did that. I tried that. I said that.
And you don't have to do the whole staircase. Like, don't even look at the whole step. The next step, the next baby step, the next baby step, the next baby step, which is so huge. And sometimes, like, when I launched this channel, it was really 1, 2, 3, jump. And just trust and believe in myself and the universe that this is all going to work out. And again, it's like, and just sometimes you just got to do it. You just got to take that action, because life is never going to change until you change the story of what you're doing. and who you're being and how you're showing up in the world and how you're like, and you have, and in my belief, you have to die 1,000 deaths every time you grow, every time you change. Because the reality is, when I did that 1, 2, 3 jump, I was no longer the person I was 10 minutes before that. I altered my life and my timeline because I created something that could possibly take off and help millions of people. My whole life just changed in that moment. It had the potential to change massively. But if I said, no, I'm not ready, nope, I can't do this, nope, I'm over 40, who's going to listen to me? Then I stay small and I'm disempowering myself and I'm self-rejecting myself and I'm doing all these things. So it's like, if we just sometimes just take that courageous step and be like, I'm just going to do it. I'm over 40. I've been through enough shit. I've experienced enough shit. I have the track record, or I don't have an effing clue what I'm doing here, but I'm going to take the risk because I'm worth the risk. The people that I want to help is worth the risk. And I'm just going to freaking do it. And I'll figure it out because you've made it this far figuring it out. And now if you can master your mindset and your thoughts and become and do so much of the stuff that we've talked about, it's like, okay, but now I can have fun with this because I'm the boss of my thoughts. I define what failure means, success means, what all these freaking words that the society has put on us. I'm going to rewrite my own freaking meanings of them. And that's what's going to mean to me. And the rest of you can F off.
Well, that was the boss right there, wasn't it? And you know what? If this was easy, everyone would already be good at it. Right. This is not easy. But you know what is cool? What I think is cool about mindset training is I really believe it's just like a sport. It's just like when you got your first job and you didn't have all the skills required to be great at it, but you learned them.
Right.
These are skills.
Right.
Skills are something you can learn.
The other part of it too, in all honesty, is that, but it's not as hard as people make it out to be either.
Okay.
It's really, I mean, I honestly think, I think what makes it hard is it requires consistency. It requires attention. It requires dedication in the beginning to build momentum, to work and understand it. But so does every freaking thing in life too. You had to spend 100 hours to start to walk, to start to run, to start to do whatever. You had to spend 1,000 hours to learn your job. All these things we could label as hard. Mindset work is, to me, it's not hard when you realize that you are worth every single ounce of it all day long. Because that's what self-love does. It puts into its own bank account over and over and over. So all the other people out there can get the overflow. And you can shine your light that much brighter.
I think it's a good point that, again, we have to pay attention to our thoughts, because when we think about the word hard, we usually get a negative connotation around that. And I believe that you're right. It isn't hard, but it does require action. In other words, you can't just sit back and hope and wish and want. I don't know if I've used this phrase before when you and I are chatting, but it's one I really like. And it says, be, do, have.
I love Zig Ziglar.
Be willing to do what it takes to have what you want. Right. So for your listeners, start at the end and work backwards. I want to feel more empowered. I want to have more control over my life. I want to stop playing small. So you start at the end, work backwards.
Create a vision. Right.
Okay.
Create the vision.
Yes. What will it take?
Right.
If this is what I want, what will it take? And then you go boom, 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 boom. And then you have to ask this question and you have to answer it truthfully. Am I willing? This
Right.
is what I want. Here's what it will take. Am I willing? You don't get to have it for free.
Right. And I'll even add one more note as we wrap up, is if you get stuck in the dreaded house, but I don't know how, then you know what? You go on to Chat GBT and you ask it. You have no excuse. Technology will give you the answer. It will lay out the whole entire step-by-step plan. So you don't have that as your excuse when you get caught up, but I don't know how. Ask the question.
Good.
Put the prompt in. This is what I want to do, but I get stuck here and here. I have ADHD and I only can focus for 10 minutes. I've got dyslexia. I struggle with XYZ. I have only 20 minutes a day to work on this. Whatever it is, it will lay it out the how for you. So you don't have that excuse. So we're going to take that right off the table. Use technology to help you help yourself.
And you know what? Who's ever listening to this, you didn't listen to this by accident.
No, never.
Someone's knocking on
never.
your door. Who's ever listening to this, someone is knocking on your door. And you know who it is? You.
Yeah.
The door of your heart. Start listening to that knock and open that damn door, because your greatest self is waiting.
Yeah. And what a great place to wrap up. I hope you guys have gotten this. If you really resonated with you, if you've got comments or want Shawnee and I to talk about other things, please list them below. We love to chat and give you as much information as we can, because we know you're here for your own greatness and the world needs you more than ever now to shine your light, but you need yourself more than anything to shine your light. So have a wonderful day and we will see you on the next chat.